How's it going, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse? This is the Marvelous Wave, and let's get right into it. I'll be clear, this is not a scripted video. We have other members of our team working on a full breakdown of the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer as we speak. I just wanted to get my first thoughts and impressions on the trailer out there, including a lot of the things that I noticed and want to talk about ever so briefly. Not just a full breakdown, but simply my first reaction to the trailer. First off, WandaVision actually predicted this months ago, with August 23rd being the date. Whether or not that's a super well planned out Easter egg in WandaVision or a complete coincidence, nobody knows, but the trailer is here on August 23rd. Unfortunately, the trailer leaked last night, where many fans got to watch it, and this footage appears to be the exact same footage from that leaked trailer, only this time with finished or close to finished VFX. The biggest things of note here is I like how it appears the first act of No Way Home will really focus on Peter Parker's home life, before the second and third act really dive into the multiverse. I also really like the reasoning behind Peter Parker wanting to cast this spell. The idea that his identity as Spider-Man now being out there drastically impacting his life in such a negative way is a great plot point that I would love to see addressed. And it's so satisfying now to see that it will be addressed after the massive cliffhanger in Spider-Man Far From Home, where in the post-credit scenes, obviously, Mysterio leaked that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Now that we're going to get a definitive ending to that storyline, as well as branch off into a brand new, way more compelling storyline than even that, is awesome. As it was just a few years ago that we didn't believe that it was possible. I also want to say right here, right now, that this idea of introducing the multiverse is the best money-making move that Sony could potentially make. The idea that now that we could potentially get a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 4 is so brilliant on behalf of Sony's part. And if Spider-Man No Way Home is a critical and fan success, which I'm assuming it will be based on the reception of the other MCU Spider-Man films, the idea that they can now continue the story of Tobey Maguire in his own solo movies, or potentially even Andrew Garfield, just prints money for Sony. The idea that they can release No Way Home and that it can establish these other alternate Spider-Men and have it make sense continuity-wise is massive, and fits in line really well with what Sony is building with that Spider-Man character and the PR with Venom and Morbius, as well as keeps in line what Marvel themselves over at Disney are trying to go in the direction with the character. And it lets the directions of Spider-Man ebb and flow brilliantly. I also love that they saved Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire for the movie or potentially even a second trailer, and how the classic Sam Raimi villains as well as Electro, played again by Jamie Foxx, hopefully done justice this time, is a big enough hint at what the multiverse has to offer. The idea of getting the Sinister Six like this in the MCU is also another brilliant idea, the pumpkin bomb being the biggest pop for me personally when watching the trailer. As a fan of the Sam Raimi films, that is really what I grew up with Marvel-wise. The Spider-Man trilogy is what formed me as a superhero fan. I don't think I've ever been as excited for a film as I was for Spider-Man 3 when I was in elementary school. So now I get to see that story come full circle in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and have it grown to the point which it has is absolutely phenomenal to get to witness as a hardcore fan. In terms of scale for MCU projects, this is right there next to Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame being the culmination of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe that we had seen ever since Iron Man in 2008. But in many ways, Spider-Man No Way Home is just as big as Endgame. This project that can bring justice to the Andrew Garfield movies, which weren't received very well critically or by fans, and with The Amazing Spider-Man 2 being hailed as one of the worst superhero movies of all time, but Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man being universally praised, as well as getting a definitive ending to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Not in this movie likely, but again, hopefully it sets him up for a return in Spider-Man 4, which I do think will eventually happen. Fingers crossed that Sam Raimi will also return for that film. The idea that they can tie together these two alternate universes in this one film is so great, and I think holds just as much implications on comic book movies as a whole as Endgame did. Marvel is pushing what is possible in film and comic book movies as a whole, and a live-action Spider-Verse is so great to get to witness. In terms of other stuff that I noticed, I love Doctor Strange and his huge role in this film. This very much will be a companion piece to Multiverse of Madness, with Spider-Man No Way Home showcasing the multiverse breaking apart, and the Multiverse of Madness having it be put back together, at least somewhat. In terms of things that I'm the most excited to see in Spider-Man No Way Home, I'm so hyped to get to see Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin yet again in live action. Willem Dafoe is the figure that terrified my childhood. I could not watch the scene as a young kid when he was born as the Green Goblin. I also cannot wait to see Jamie Foxx done justice as Electro in No Way Home. And who could forget Doc Ock Alfred Molina, one of the best comic book movie villains to date ever since 2002's Spider-Man 2. Alfred Molina has only been topped a handful of times by some of the greatest performance in films, period. And I absolutely loved him as Doc Ock. I love that the MCU has grown to the point where it can literally pick and choose from some of the best parts of the previous Spider-Man film. Some of the best villains from the Tobey Maguire movies, where the villains really shined up until the third entry. Not to mention getting to see an actor like Jamie Foxx and his caliber show up in the MCU as Electro and hopefully done justice. Another thing that I really loved about this trailer is that it didn't reveal too much. Let's face it, we all know Tobey and Andrew are both in the film. But the fact that the trailer has kept it a secret this long is huge, and I think the villains was just the appropriate tease. And one final note, it does at the end of the trailer say that it will come out this Christmas, meaning at this point in time the release date for No Way Home has not been moved. Venom was delayed about a month, but it looks like No Way Home will in fact be premiering this December. Anyway, my friends, what are your first reactions to Spider-Man No Way Home? What are your thoughts on the trailer? And out of the many things that we discussed briefly here in this video, what are you the most excited to see? Again, my friends, this is very much just my first reaction to the trailer. Stay tuned later on the channel for a full in-depth analysis, as well as multiple other videos that will follow. As always, hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and have a great day.